Hey guys, believe it or not, a pretty big combo enjoyer here, and today I kind of just want to discuss them like high level, like PoE1, PoE2, and then just like game design wise in general. And I know people probably let out a collective sigh when they think about multi-button builds, but I think like my elevator pitch would be that I think a lot more people actually would enjoy combos if, and this is gonna sound so obvious, if the buttons themselves were actually fun to press and the combo gameplay wasn't so antagonistic. But I'm just gonna break this out into sections because I want to like go over a bunch of different things where I think they're fun, where I think they're not, and why I think they're kind of more maligned by the community because of a lot of the ways they're designed. So first, let's start with crowd control. Crowd control, like freezing, stunning the screen, and then like sucking and various pulling effects, are probably some of the most common ways you actually see this in RPGs. And I know D4 complete dog shit, but this button, Corpse Tendrils, really pretty fun to press. As you see here, he presses this, he sucks a giant pool of mobs together where he can then just blow them up because he's playing something where he doesn't have insane coverage, where he can't hit the entire screen, but he sucks a big portion of the screen directly onto his character so that he can blow them up to kind of fix that problem. Now, effect like that in PoE1, which is kind of weird to say, these effects almost always fall flat or they're just like not used at all. I think because the way they're designed is kind of just anti-synergistic and, well, not good. So like Void Sphere is the PoE1 version. And a lot of these arguments are going to not make a ton of sense in PoE1 just because the game's so fast, you're generally not going to do stuff like this anyway. But for example, let's do Void Sphere here. So you can see, not really pulling a whole bunch of mobs. It's like barely getting, I'm going to wait. The fact this has like a crazy, this is a 10-second cooldown by default, by the way. The fact that that has that. As you can see, pretty terrible effect at this. Like it'll slowly suck things to you. And what's funny is the way Void Sphere is designed is it has really small AoE. It has like basically, like, as you see that pulse radius, it's a little bit smaller than you see like visually. It's actually much smaller. It's like this, like it's like in the half point where they'll suck things in. But the problem with the way Void Sphere is designed is it has a really small AoE, which you're using it to suck a bunch of mobs on the screen to you for skills that have a really small AoE. So it just kind of doesn't make sense the way that it's designed. It should either be much bigger and like hit most of the screen, or do something kind of similar like what Corpse Tendrils did, where it sucks a bunch of like X number of mobs to you directly. Because as stupid as it sounds, I think you could actually consider using this on like default strike setups, or at least early before you have like insane speed or whatever. But like, say you're playing like Molten Strike, Glacial Hammer, Heavy Strike, something like that, where you're just like coverage is literally melee splash like directly on your character. Well, if I could suck all these mobs onto me right now and hit Glacial Hammer, you'd be like, oh, that actually doesn't look that bad. That's pretty sick. Like I suck all these mobs in here and just blow them up. Because like I can do that, pull some of these mobs here. Not really an attack character. Okay, good. I have a big enough weapon to kill them. But as you can imagine, your clear would be pretty acceptable. And you could lean into PoE strengths. Like where Void Sphere is the only effect I know of that actually does this, although I think there's like Vol Cyclone, but that button just kills you when you press it. You could lean into PoE strengths, like using a support gem system to give that pull effect to various skills. So like different kind of skills could use different kind of pull effects, like and it would just open up different things. Like for example, you could use like Exsanguinate, which would hit like a big portion of the screen, or Exsanguinated Transmission hits a big portion of the screen. Use Chain with that, just like hit everything in front of you, pull them to you. You could use something like Flame Surge, which pulls a bunch of stuff in a line for skills where you clear directly in front of you. There's just a lot of different things you could do and open up the game rather than just having this one skill that does this with a cooldown. Because PoE is designed in such a way that you could really make this kind of system really interesting. And then you have other effects that do like other forms of CC, which I don't think will ever really realistically have a place in PoE. Something like Ice Nova of Deep Freeze. So I don't have any AoE in this character. This is what I would be freezing if I was playing a build that was scaling really hard to get this Ice Nova to actually deal enough damage to freeze stuff, which is kind of similar to the Void Sphere problem. So high level, skills like this need to just be good enough that you don't need a bunch of other stuff to make them function, because you're already choosing to do something that is not ideal. Like if you could just be playing a one button build in either game, then sorry PoE2, it's like that's how it's always going to be, but it's ARPG players are just going to clear as fast as they possibly can. But if you're playing a two button build, you've already opted to do something that's unoptimal, right? So the thing that you're using to like crowd control the game shouldn't be so hard to scale to make good, because you're already doing something unoptimized. So just make it like decent. You can maybe nerf it if the pull effects are too hard or the freeze effects are too hard. But it's like even in PoE2, there's already like a pretty big cooldown on freezing stuff multiple times. But it shouldn't be so difficult to actually make this function, because if I'm doing this, it should do what it's intended to do, not something I have to invest in really heavily. Because if I invest really heavily into my Ice Nova Deep Freeze for my build that's not very strong, where I want to use an effect like this, well, now that build's even weaker because I invested into something that's not related to what I was doing. I don't know if that makes sense. But like examples of this that are actually good, like, and there's going to be a lot less again in PoE1. But like Leap Slam might be the only one in both games. Leap Slam in PoE1 is fantastic at this. You Leap Slam into a pack in PoE1 and it just stuns by default. You don't have to like support it with something to do that like you do in PoE2. But you leap into a pack, stun the pack, and then blow up the pack with whatever you're actually using to deal damage. And then in PoE2 you have an incredible one in Flash Grenade, which if you have decent AoE or like multi-projectiles on this, you can just basically stun the entire screen and sometimes even just deal damage with this skill as well. But this one's a great CC effect. It just like mostly hits the screen. It's like basically exactly what you want. And then you have things like Escape Shot, which is like, stop it. Just stop right now. Like you could technically use Escape Shot in the campaign. My experience with trying this in the campaign is I'm getting swarmed. I'll press Escape Shot. Oh, I jumped into the air for half a second and then just died because I jumped into the air for half a second. So you could definitely use this on like a really bad build in the campaign. But the problem is the fact that you can leap into the air, survive long enough, shoot the ground to create this small baby AoE, and then not freeze the things you hit is crazy to me because that's the entire purpose of the skill. I get that it's like everything needs to scale off this like freeze effect and like stun effect in both PoEs, but the problem is when you have these utility skills that are intended to do one thing like this, they should just do that. There shouldn't be so much scaling that you need to do to actually make this happen because you're already choosing to do something unoptimized, so they should just be better. Again, you can use supports through the same effect. Like I think it'd be more interesting if there was another free support like this one where it just had like 500% more freeze effect or something like that. And then it said this skill does not deal damage, but freezes as if it does, so that you could really make a utility skill, or like you could build your own utility skill that freezes. It doesn't need to deal damage because you're already choosing to do like a 2-button build. Like so, it's going to vary by what kind of skill you're playing. Like you could make your Leap Slam do that, you can make your Shield Charge do that, or just like kind of whatever, or just like something with crazy coverage, like the bow skill that hits the screen, you fire in a circle, has frenzy charges. Man, I cannot remember the name of it. Really fun skill. Anyways, point being, you could lean into the support system and actually do this. And I think you really need to make this stuff easier because, again, you're choosing to do something optimized. I feel like I'm repeating myself a billion times, but I just really want to hammer home that I think that's very important for multi-button builds. Is it's one of the buttons needs to do something. Like otherwise, we're just doing generator spender. And if one of the buttons is only intended use case is to CC, it needs to CC pretty reliably. I just want to go over one more weird example because I think it's really cool, but it basically doesn't do anything in the current state of PoE. I don't even know if this effect exists in PoE2. I think it does, maybe. So let me show you a little bit of knockback nonsense. So this is going to be Ball Lightning with knockback. And I have pretty heavily investment. I have Malagarda's Vice, complete throwing away my gloves for 100% knockback, and then the only knockback wheel in the tree that we have. So you can see it kind of works. Kind of pushes mobs back a little bit. But Ball Lightning is probably literally the best possible skill to do this with because of how many times it hits, and it pushes in a certain direction. So it's literally perfect for this. But I've invested an absolute ton to do this. And if I take off, okay, so do that. Now it pushes back even less. And if I undid this, it would push back even less. But the point is, I've invested so much to do this for something that barely works on the best possible skill that does it. Knockback, I don't think has a use case in PoE1. I do think it could have a use case in PoE2 because I think as far as I know in that game, you still only care about killing rares. So you can just push white mobs aside to get out of places. But something really interesting, there's a lot of really interesting stuff you can do with this. And then obviously you have the inverse direction, like the reverse suck effect that is on unique gloves in PoE1. That could just be a support. Knockback is reverse, which maybe that is in PoE2 again, not huge nowhere there. But I like the pull mechanic, and then knockback could potentially be a different mechanic that is using different support gems to do different effects. Although I think that effect is a lot less applicable and practical than like something like CCing the screen or pulling mobs to you. But basically, all of these effects that exist are not very strong when the cost to use them is already very high. So they should be better. Is like my thanks for coming to my TED Talk. I think combos are really interesting when there are either a lot of payoffs or there are a lot of enablers for parts of the combo. Because if, like, for example, if when you blade falled, there was like 20 different skills to blow them up, or like some supports that just created ways to blow them up, that would open up tons of design space and tons of builds. Or if there was a bunch of different ways to put blades in the ground and then just like either like a couple ways to blow them up, that would also be interesting because there's a lot of different ways to create the blades. So it's like just inherently both are really versatile and create more builds. Stuff that I don't like is like why I'm mentioning Bladefall is because I like Bladefall Blade Blast, but it's a really boring one because it's like you can literally use EK of Lingering or Bladefall and Blade Blast to blow it up. There's just two different ways. A lot of different stuff you can do with that because PoE 1's a really complicated game and a lot of different ways to trigger stuff, but it's pretty simple. Perfect example of one that I think is like really well designed is Volcano.
The volcano we used earlier will emit more molten balls whenever you hit it with a slam.
That has so many different payoffs. There are so many different slams in the game, and that will increase as the game goes on. And assuming this works with proxies like totems, you know, RIP the ones that require endurance charges now, but you could like practice in like a ton of really different ways. Like either weapon swapping is something that slams some kind of skill really fast, some kind of proxy, or like the PoE 2 like build guide version where it's like you run around and like you create slam effects as you walk or something. I'm not really sure. I don't remember what that skill is called, but a ton of different things you could do with this. Really, really interesting design. And there are a ton of skills that are designed like this. Like there's Tornado in PoE 1 where you create a bunch of different collision effects. I mean, hell, I could have a whole video on just why I think collision effects are good for a game to have. It's like you have this where you can collide and like create weird behavior with like forking off of this or double hitting with various skills. Tons of different skills do that. Old Frostwall in PoE 2 before that got deleted. Frostwall in PoE 1 before that got deleted. Toxic Growth still works with like Sunder and Gathering Storm. Will probably work with future skills that create on-hit effects when they collide with various objects. Binary used to do this before that got deleted. But tons of stuff like that where it's just like an entire archetype. Like even Tornado in PoE 2 is also really cool. Tornado in PoE 2 is actually even cooler probably because any bow or crossbow shot can fire into it and it spits out in random directions, which you can do a lot of weird stuff with that. Like people usually use it for lightning rod for single target, but you can do it for coverage things or I don't know, future stuff. There's some cool design space there, but I don't know why it doesn't work with spells or grenades. Grenades it might be a little too broken, but that's I don't know, build guide stuff. But either way, entire archetypes can use these things, which means that they inherently add more builds to the games than they take away. Where if you do something like where the only way to use Creeping Frost is to blow it up with Cold Snap, you just made two skills only work in one possible way, as opposed to like, I don't know, some kind of skill maybe called Snap, where it can blow up all kind of projectiles, like a ball lightning creates a lightning explosion, blowing up a Frostbolt creates a cold explosion, or you can blow up different ailments on enemies, which is pretty much exactly what they did. Granted, it can only blow up cold, Frostbolt currently, but it can blow up the elements, and it's like this. There's a lot of interesting stuff you can do here because it's like that's so generic. You could technically use an attack to proc this. You could use various things to proc this, and then just use Cold Snap, or Snap. Orbistorms used to be a similar kind of thing where you could use either lightning attacks or lightning spells near it to create a bunch of on-hit effects. That no longer works with attacks. They said it was a bug, or was a tooltip bug where it said you could use it with attacks and it didn't work, but that's wildly untrue. That was literally my league starter in Dawn of the Hunt. As an Infusion Amazon, abusing the fact that this plus Power Charge and Crit, and then the Red Covenant chest. It's the one it's the same art as Impulse in PoE 1. But anyways, it would create a bunch of Power Charge, a bunch of explosions, and a shit ton of damage. But you can't do that anymore, assuming this doesn't work with lightning attacks anymore, or they didn't realize it does, so maybe that's what works. But the point is, it doesn't really do that anymore because now it always expires after 6 bolts. Used to be you would level it up to get more hits off of it, so you could use it to proc a bunch of on-hit effects. I think that behavior should be added back, honestly, because people that just want this for the infusion, geez, like gross. But if you just want it for this effect, you would keep it at level 1 anyway, and then the people who want to use it to either supplement their damage or create a bunch of on-hit effects would level it up to do that. So that just literally would open up more options for it, as opposed to it being strictly for infusions, and for that same reason, it's the play rate of it's over half from what it was in the previous patch, just because there's way less ways to use it. They made a skill that was really versatile into a skill that is not. Similar to Lightning Rod, but I understand why that one, this skill is so broken. It was so broken, it's still so broken. This, I think, was the coolest skill in all of PoE 2, and now it's one of the most uninteresting. It's just Bladefall, Blade Blast, with Bladefall being the only thing. Bladefall being Lightning Arrow, and then Blade Blast being Lightning Rod. So there's just like not really a lot you can do with this. Used to be cool, but I get why it changed because it was really fucked up. Hopefully they could bring back the old behavior and just limit it in some kind of other way so that it's like actually interesting again. But yeah, basically these kind of skills where they have entire archetypes that they enable make the combos just kind of really fun because the devs aren't telling you how to play. You can use whatever you want to start them. Like with Snap, you have to use Snap obviously, but you can do whatever you want to. Click the wrong thing. Sorry. You can use whatever you want to get to the first step and then use Snap if you want to play with this skill. They're not saying you can use just Bladefall with this. There's a billion different things you could do with this, and billion's excessive, but you get my point. Stuff like this is really interesting. So more stuff like this, honestly, and it seems like sometimes they're going the right direction and then they go in the wrong. like the wrong direction with like things like Orbistorms, in my opinion. But they can still add to this to make it more versatile. Like honestly, I know it's like a little early to be considering adding transfigured gems to PoE 2, but if there was a transfigured Orbistorms that didn't have this like gross remnant stuff and then just did the old one, that would be interesting, where it just worked with lightning spells and lightning attacks and had a much higher hit count. There's something there. You could probably do that with other things too. Just really, 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 really open up the game. Like maybe a tornado that works with, I don't know why that would be separate gem. It's like one that works with spells and grenades, but it's like different in some way. Welcome to the bitching portion. I know what you're thinking. You're just like, the rest of that wasn't the bitching portion. I know. I can bitch more. Basically, there are a lot of designs in PoE 2 that are just inherently unfun, like, and intentionally so, because you guys have said on, like, and I think I completely agree with this, that it is ideal if you can design the game in the way that the most optimal way to play is the most fun. The PoE 2 combo system goes against that so much. So, for example, if you make you want to make a combo really strong, so you make it like inherently like, and one of the knobs you can turn is make it more tedious to use to make it more powerful, because that's definitely a knob that is turned. It seems like like in PoE 2, it seems like the hand is always on the knob, but like for example, like Waking Dream, really strong. Like generating remnants can be really strong. Thunderstorm, this skill deals a shit ton of damage. We have to stay in a storm and then move out of the storm for it to proc. It's like, you've already paid 2 ascendancy points. You've already found a way to generate remnants. You've already sat and channeled in a storm and like scaled the duration and the proj speed to make this optimal. Why do you then have to do another thing to like actually get the payoff for this stuff? You've already paid a pretty big cost. This is 2 ascendancy points. I don't know how you're doing this. It's either 2 buttons or you're proccing in some kind of fashion. And this, it's like inherently the clunkiest design skill ever. It's pretty cool, but you know, clunky as shit. So it's like, if you think this effect is too strong without having to move your character to go pick something up, which is always going to be unfun. People will literally, and I mean literally, always complain about this until this is always auto picked up, this is always auto picked up, and this is auto procced without moving. People will always complain because no one wants to play some mini game while they're dealing with combat already. That's just the last possible thing people are going to want to do. So, if you think these effects are too strong without having clunk added in, just nerf the effects. Because what you're doing by having it this way, where you have to walk to go pick something up, you are making the most optimal way to play not the most fun. Because I can guarantee you the most fun way to play a game is not have to arbitrarily walk to go pick up power. That will never be the case. So just something to consider. I don't know. I get this effect. This kind of thing is used a lot in PoE 2, but it's always complained about, and I think that should just be obvious why that is. And I get why you're doing it. It's just. Okay, I think this is like the horror scenario, and the worst possible example of this in PoE 2 in general is honestly the whole charge system. Like, flicker players have it bad enough that they can't permanent flicker. It's just like, they're down bad for a skill in both games. Just let them have this. Like, why do you have to just like have like a corpse generated and then wait some time for this to proc to consume the corpse? Can we just have like something more reasonable? Like, charges are more important to be consumed in PoE 2, but it's so much harder to generate them. I get later on you can automate things like Profane Ritual or use various uniques to do this effect, but it's just like, this is so unfun to have to do stuff like this to get the power to do it. And it's like, but you have to, because if you're down bad for Flicker, and they are very down bad for it, they are going to do so many unfun things just to be able to play their skill. So please don't punish them for doing that. And it's like, not just the Flicker players, I mean in general, it's just like, generating charges, like nobody wants to like, outside of the campaign, I can understand like pairing and stuff like that, but you don't want to add something into your rotation that is just not fun to press or like is just inherently really clunky to actually play the thing you want to play. It's just, the whole charge system is like this. Like, why can't we just have power charge on crit? It's like, maybe if you want it to like, so heralds can't abuse it, you can make it specifically not support them. So you have to like, or some way that you have to manually press something to get your power charge. Like, is it so inherently wrong for me to have like Orbistorms plus power charge on crit, and then you cast Orbistorms, and then use my skill to pay off the power charge that I just generated? That's a 2-button build. It's like, I paid a pretty steep cost for that. I pressed 2 buttons. It's like, please don't make it way worse than that. I don't think that's an unreasonable request, because that's like already a little steep. There's kind of nice stuff, and like I know like later you can get like your charge infusion kind of stuff. There's just ways to solve this like in later progression system, but it's like the early game shouldn't just be so grating, I guess is all I'm getting at. Like, the way that we changed the like Ancestral Warrior Totem, I actually really like Ancestral Warrior Totem because I didn't get to play with it a bunch in PoE 1 because it's just so clunky and the PoE 1's so fast paced. And then it got removed, but I've messed around with it a decent amount in PoE2, but now I never will because it's just like I'm not gonna jump through the nine different hoops to like get enough endurance charges to do this. Like I imagine that on some level it was very good like late game because there was a limit added to it, which I don't know if that just because it was causing server problems, but point is it's like I assume later on you can get enough charge generation to make that fine. But I can tell you the one thing that totem players don't want to do, and that is play a bunch of other different skills and archetypes to play totems. Like if we go look at the play rate of Ancestral Warrior Totem and Dawn of the Hunt, 5% makes sense, really strong. Over here, actually just kind of deleted from the game. That's like 20%, that's like a 20 times less play rate or something obscene. And it makes sense because it's like, why would you, this sounds so miserable to me. And I know that, I mean, the player base I'm sure feels similarly. It's just like the people that want to play an archetype, like imagine if I were going to play bows, but you said, okay, you got to play bows. But for the first few minutes, you have to play an entirely different archetype. Be like, oh, okay, I'll just not play bows then. Easy. This is the same problem with Ancestral Warrior Totem now. And then we just added Spell Totem to the game and just like kind of double down. It has to generate power charges to do that. And it's just like people that want to play an archetype don't want to have to play another archetype first so that they can play the archetype they want to play. They just want to play the archetype. It's like not complicated. It's like, and if you think that these effects are too strong, just nerf them, but don't make the least fun play pattern the most optimal. That's just so toxic. I think on some level I can kind of understand the thought process maybe here with the totems. It's everybody has a bunch of different 6-links in PoE2, right? So you want to make it so the people that are playing totems are like really committed to playing totems. But I think there are more fun ways to do that or more reasonable ways to do that that are just not annoying. Like for example, it's kind of boring, but you could just add a support that just says 100% more damage with totems, your skills deal no damage, or your skills deal 50% less damage. Add Ancestral Bond to the tree that, I think there actually is an Ancestral Bond where you spend Spirit for totems. But yeah, like make it so you don't deal damage, your totems can only do damage. Or even just bake into the baseline totem gem, while this totem is active, your skills deal 50% less damage or some amount to just make it so like it's less abusable. I don't think we need something like that because it's like single target in PoE2 is pretty easy to come by, and honestly, our ballista's so wrong in PoE1 because people use ballistas to supplement their bow builds all the time in PoE1. I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with that. I actually really like how bows have a bunch of different ways to supplement between Mana Forge and ballistas and stuff. But so I don't know, because it's like you're already doing a lot of investment by using the totem that could be used on different support gems. They're going to die. I just think in general, if the thought process is I want to make this archetype only playable if you have to jump through a bunch of heaps to play this archetype, most players will just choose not to play that archetype and you've removed the archetype from the game. It's very similar with like, I get a lot of the ideas in PoE2 where you don't want to play this archetype, you want to play, like totems are supposed to be supplementary, which I assume is what the case is with this, right? But that's how Ignite is too, and it's just like, people want to play the archetypes that they like. People want to play Ignite builds. People want to play totem builds. But in PoE2, pretty hard to do that. I think that's pretty much it. It's mostly just, please don't gate archetypes behind playing other archetypes or other skills because you just remove options from the game. That's all it is. All right, poops and butts out.